Today we're talking about the best place ever, period, to get into a trade, and it's extremely simple. It's one of my favorite setups of all time, and it's coming to you right now. Just please like video, subscribe to channel. Would love to have you guys here getting content weekly to help you on your trading journey. But here's skills, and we do see this chart being a great trend chart. So number one, in the markets, we're always trying to play the trend. We're always trying to go with the momentum of the market. I'm going to show you two things you can add that give you a higher chance of a better entry point, a better place to get into the trend and ride it, hopefully for those awesome profits. So this is a swing strategy, so be prepared. If you're a day trader, it could work for you on a smaller time frame, but this is mostly for my swing trading traders out there. So we're always looking to swing because we get more profits, we hold longer, we can ride out the trend, and you do get those larger percent gains every day, and those do add up if you get the bulk of the trend. So I'm just going to show you one thing I add to find the entry point, and then another thing to add to it to give you that second validation, because nothing's better than a second validation. So right here, a trend in the market is just defined as something making a new high or a new low compared to the previous price action. I'm going to go to this price action right here. You do see the high of skills being 22.90. Let's just mark that, and that's going to be our future line. So if we ever pass that, we know we're making a new high. And once we start making new highs, that's when we start looking for entry points to get in on the trend. So I want to make this line, let's go dashed. And again, here's the highs. You can also go from the wick. If we don't really pass these two levels, we're not making a new high. So you can see right about here, this candle is finally making a new high. So right when that candle happens, what we look for is our consolidation point. Where can we get in this to give our safest, best entry point for continuation? And all I do is it's real simple. I go from the bottom of the trend and just look for a trend line, because if we have a trend, we'll likely have a trend line. If we have a trend line, we will likely have a new touch in the future that is going to give us a better entry point. You can see right here, there's our trend line, and there is our new touch right there. So trend line, if I just adjust it slightly, has our second touch. We just need 3 touches for anything to be a good trend line. So we're basically just waiting and hoping for that third touch, but I'm going to mark these out. That's our first touch, our second touch. Here's our first touch. You need 2 touches to make any trend line, and from there, that's where you can look for the next one. So we can also just Control C, Control V, and then make this as the top. So you can make a parallel channel. You can see here's the first touch, here's the second touch. We never touch it for a third time. So that's good to know. So right about here, guys, we hit the trend line. So first candle comes down and a wick forms under the line, which is validation that the line is holding. The very next day we gap up and we hold the line again. Very next day we gap up. So this was an excellent entry point, but we did close beneath the line. So this is not confirmed. This is sitting right at that 50-50 zone. And so we do want one more piece of evidence to know if this is really a good entry point, because who knows where this can go from here. If you click the daily chart, I do want to point out that this should be, where'd it go? Should be sitting at right there at the trend line. So we're not really sitting above it or below it. We're kind of right on the trend line. So this is just a terrible trend line example, but you can see this is exactly how I spot my entry points. And so you could have played puts here, but all we look for in the market is confirmation. So once you see that trend line, we just want to see a candle close above it. And so if we're looking for an entry point on this trend, what you have on the next candle is a close above, and then boom, like I said, that runner. So you could have took this on the close of the day. You could have took this on the very next day for the gap up, but we always are looking for that trend line touch. And that's where we had a 50-50 zone right there. I'm going to show you a better example in a second. after I show you the other piece of evidence you can add on. I have this in almost every video. It's just an EMA cloud. So how would we have known this was going to bottom? How would we know we're getting a good entry point? Pretty simple, guys. The EMA cloud has to be green to have a trend, and if you have it sloping up, if you have it wide like it is right here, and you do have a touch of the bottom one, that's our safe entry point. So we have two pieces of confirmation. So although the trend line was make or break, we did hit the bottom EMA cloud and support. You see this wick also supports EMA cloud. So first example, off the top of my head, first chart right here, and that's how I would have played it. I'm going to show you one more for the downtrend. Again, I'm not nitpicking. These are real examples. This is something that did happen in the past and something I haven't really looked at. So I don't know if it's going to be perfect, but I'm going to give you something that I would have set up when it was happening. So right here, we do have some touches on skills. You see the trend, and what we see is that the trend reversed right about here. So there's the highs. We are going to play reverse trend now. So once we start making new lows on this trend, this is when we start trying to find our entry point for the trend reversal. So right about here, you're going to draw this trend line, and you can put it at these two candles, and I'll show you exactly how I would have done it. And this actually lined up perfectly in the future. Yeah, you would have adjusted slightly. But if you put it at the wicks here, this sell zone, that's the first place you would have had your touch of the trend line. And here's the next one, the wicks. You could also put it at the candle body. You could have done both, but this trend did not touch the candle body until over here. So again, both lines would have worked. The first line on the wicks would have gave you some great entry points for the current trend. And then the second line for the bodies would have gave you a great entry point for later on. We'll keep both those up and just digest them as price action comes down. But again, the candle wicks formed a great entry point. So all we're looking for are touches of the candle to the trend line, and that's our entry point. So if you're looking to play a trend, this is my favorite time to get in. Every time you touch it, again, look for confirmation, look for reversals, look for crappy candles. These are dojis. This one right here is engulfing. This one here is gapping down. It's just too easy, traders. And then right here, at the very end of the trend, we have one more touch lower before we break out higher. So this trend was all over the place for good and bad moves up and down. But you see 3 new touches. So all we need is a 2-touch system. And you got 1, 2. And then you get those future touches you can use. Lastly, over here is that touch if you wanted to wait, if you just wanted to play the trend later, and you use the candle bodies. Again, more pieces of evidence is better to be a successful trader and get the best entry point possible. All you have to do is add the EMA cloud, and what we're looking for is the red cloud to prove as resistance. And what we see is that the green cloud is during this whole downtrend. So we don't really have a downtrend till right about here. So we don't have any double confirmation zones until this downtrend develops right here. So this is your entry point. You have the trend line, you have the EMA cloud. Right here is your double confirmation entry. Right about here is where we get the downtrend. So again, EMA cloud is right here. You do have the trend line. This is another great entry right about here. You can use the EMA cloud. Whenever we go inside it, that's a great time to get in and go with the trend. And lastly, over here, we don't have that double confirmation. So that's a great example. There's the downtrend, and you can see it still continues. So this still keeps coming down. You see we're riding this trend line here. We're actually above it now. We don't have any good entry points because we don't have double confirmation. As we come down, this thing does not stop. So over here, this trend line just never gets touched again, it looks like. And this trend line here, if we extend it, proves to be some entry points in the future. So we could enter on this candle. We can enter over here at the bottoms, and then we reverse it on that engulfing candle. So engulfing candle is typically a great entry point for the end, the reverse of a trend and the start of a new one. So If you want to play the trend, all you have to do is wait for the EMA cloud to turn green. And we see the EMA cloud turning green here. You just want to look for new highs, and you want to look for the trend line to get tapped. Same thing, guys. We have 2 touches here. We made a new high. You can see we went over here. We made a new high. It didn't hold, but I'm just going to draw those touches, and those are going to be my entry points. So if we did have confirmation of EMA cloud, if we did have a touch of it, this would have been a great entry zone here. We aren't above the yellow cloud. That's something I'd call resistance, but eventually when we pop over the yellow cloud here, this could be great for entries. Again, we're just looking to use trend lines to ride the trend in the market. I don't see any great real trends here until this one. So again, red EMA cloud crosses there, and you get an excellent trend line based off of these 4 candles. So right here is where we look for the put entries. So cloud turns red. Now we want to play the trend line touch, or we want to play a cloud touch. If we could play double, that's the goal too. We don't really have any good touches till maybe here, but that one just didn't line up perfectly. But again, you can see we just rode this cloud down and down and down and down, as well as the trend line was sloping. So you can always make new lines. You can always trade off them. This was just excellent, guys. This line would have been great because we're just on the cloud and on the trend line at the same exact time. You could have played every single touch of the line and then that move lower, eventually gapping down and running into that sub 12 level. So that was great. That's all I got, guys. Free books, free courses, link inside the bio. 7 days free with me, link down below. Would love to have you guys. And lastly, playlist on all our charting, all our technical analysis videos right there if you want it. So enjoy that. Have a great trading day. Peace.